So from here, what I want to do is be able to have some elements in front, but I want them to move at the same pace as the background. So this is going to be a little bit strange in terms of this technique, um, because what you might think you can do is you can take your plant, this is our looping one, put it on top and say this is something I want in the foreground, hold down shift to shrink it down, and I want it to stay here, and you could have it move off the screen as you go, like say I just want this P position, and then I move it off the screen, so it sort of goes at a different sort of rate. But there's going to be a weird effect that happens when this is going. It's not going to come back in. It's not going to loop. So you might also think, oh, what if I parent it to the object? Like I'm going to parent it to the background forest because it's moving. Well, if you do that, it's not actually moving, because what's moving is the expression, is the offset effect. So what you could do, this is a little weird, is you could parent it to the exposition of the offset effect. And so when I do this, notice it like went somewhere super weird. And actually, I would just want to, if I right click, separate dimensions, then I can just attach the X position to this, hold down my keyframe, I pressed Alt and clicked on the keyframe, and say I want this to be tied to my X position here. Now when I run this, it's stuck there, and that works, and that's super cool, and it should come back in a second. See, it pops back in. Not super effective. That's why it's not so good. So the actual method you should use is a little bit different. So I'm going to delete this out. What I want to do is use a duplicate of the background I've created. And you have to duplicate the composition inside the project window. If you try and duplicate it down here, what it's going to do is create an instance of it rather than an actual another version. So I'm going to go inside my project window and Command D or Control D, and let's label this, and I hit Enter to relabel it, Background Forest Foreground. And then inside here, what I can do is delete all these guys, put in a new plant, and I want this one to be here, that's a little bit larger, and Control D, and I'm going to have this one be a little bit larger. If you ever want to reverse something really quickly, an easy way to do this is go into Scale, unhook them, and if you put a negative in front of your element, it'll go back the other way. You can always relink it then so it shrinks down correctly. So let's have this guy here. And I'm going to keep them blue for right now. I'm going to turn down the opacity just a little bit, just so they're in front. All right. So now what I want to do is, I've got this background forest foreground. I want to hide the background, or I could even delete it. But I know this is in the exact same position as my background. And so what I could do is drag and drop this in. If I drag and drop this in, right, it's going to put it in here, and I could align, do left, go to my background forest. I pressed E to go to my effects, Command C, Command V, and we should see that's set here. Right? Oh, make sure you are at the very beginning, Command V. But an easier way to do this is if you, and this is a great trick for whenever you're working in After Effects and if you need to replace a layer, like say for example, I'm like, oh, I want to replace this plant figure with this figure with the plant. If you select your layer inside the timeline, go up to your project window, click and drag, and then if you hold down Alt or Option, it'll just swap out the layer, but it'll keep all the same properties. So now it's going to keep that plant there, but it's going to continually go through, but instead it's the plant. I'm going to do that because I don't want that to be there. So what I'm going to do instead is duplicate my background forest by doing Control D, drag it to the top, and I'm going to replace it. You can see like right now it's this background forest is the same thing as what we have, so it's blocking out everything. But we're going to replace it with this foreground. So I have it selected, go up to my project window, click and drag down, hold down Alt or Option, and replace it. And what this has done is now put our background forest here in the back and our background forest foreground in front of everything. And it'll have the exact same properties as this layer down here. Everything's exactly the same, just keeps it really nice and tidy. And now we've got these things happening in the foreground that are passing in front of the character. We can double click into this, and actually maybe I want these to be fully opaque so you can see them pass in front of this character. As he passes by. So this is a way that you could begin to composite your work together that I think would be super exciting and effective.